So here's what's going on, man. And basically what's going on right now is Joe Biden is essentially backing away from all of the promises, all the progressive promises that he made. And not only that, he's not fighting for them in any serious way. And he's basically made clear he doesn't really support them, right? It's one thing to say you support something, it's another thing to put it out there. And then there's a whole nother level of actually fighting for it, which is what Bernie Sanders would do. Now, the biggest thing here comes down to the $15 minimum wage, right? So you guys know budget reconciliation allows for passing something through with only 50 votes, a simple majority, rather than currently with the filibuster in place. Just to get out of debate and hold a vote on a bill, you have to have 60 votes to get to cloture to end debate, which is impossible because it's a 50-50 split currently in the Senate, and there are no 10 Republicans who are going to vote even just to break debate and to go into a vote on it. So what's essentially going on is Democrats were trying to put the $15 minimum wage bill provision into this current coronavirus bill that they're passing through, but there's this thing called the Senate Parliamentarian that gets to determine whether or not it's allowed under budget reconciliation. Now, the Senate Parliamentarian said no, it is not allowed under this. Now, what they can do is the vice president can actually just overrule the Senate Parliamentarian and just move through and put it in. That would have to happen. And then you're going to have in the Senate, Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are going to be tough votes on that, but that's a fight you have to be willing to pick up. It just is. And it's something where if you don't have enough pressure to put on them as an executive and as a whole, in terms of being the Democratic Party, you're not going to ever get anything serious passed in your entire life. This is the best situation you can ask for in a long time. And the fact that you're not getting anything serious through, like a $15 minimum wage is really, really huge. That'd be a really big piece. And it was really the only big thing that I thought could actually get passed. He's obviously not going to do anything for Medicare for all. We already knew that. Ending wars, yeah, right. Anything on Israel-Palestine, we knew that wasn't going to happen. His Israel-Palestine policy is actually worse than Obama's was by a lot. But so what it says is progressives are fuming over a setback on the minimum wage, worried that it signals looming problems for getting other key priorities through Congress. So it's kind of a trend that you're seeing. It says, though Democrats control both the House and the Senate for the first time since 2010, Thursday's decision by the parliamentarian to exclude a wage increase from the $1.9 trillion relief bill is reviving tensions about limited powers to pass some of the biggest Democratic campaign promises. So Pramila Jaypal says it's not just about minimum wage. Democrats made a lot of promises in winning the House, the Senate, and the White House, and it's going to come up again and again. Democrats, she added, faced a choice. Are we going to stick to these rules, or are we actually going to use the levers of government to work for the people? Then it has other quotes from other people. This guy, Evan Weber, political director of the Sunrise Movement, saying most Americans do not give a shit about and have never heard of the Byrd rule. I believe the Byrd rule has to do with whether or not something is tax beneficial or whether or not it's going to be paid for through the budget. I guess the big time where it was actually bypassed was when Bush passed his tax cuts back in the early 2000s. It did not comply with the Byrd rule. They went ahead and passed it anyways. And so what the Republicans do is they set these rules. They don't follow any of the rules, and then they expect Democrats to follow it. And the worst part of all of that is Democrats actually try to follow those rules. Dude, you idiots, you're never going to get anything serious done if you're following these rules that the other party doesn't even care about and never follows. The Byrd rule, Bush just passed the tax cuts anyways. They weren't going to pay for themselves, and it was clear. And it was known at the time, but they just went ahead and passed it anyways. It will happen next if parliamentarian rules a 100% clean energy standard. Another key Biden promise in violation of the arbitrary Byrd rule. From inequality to the climate crisis, our country's people are in a state of emergency and in desperate need of action. So A clean, 100% clean energy standard is basically, totally a pipe dream at this point under a Biden administration, as we can see. But I do agree it is an issue with the larger trend. Now, I believe reconciliation can only even be used once a year. So you're not going to even get a chance to have this through. And even if it was able to be used more, you think Biden's going to do it? Absolutely not. So you'd need 60 votes to pass $15 minimum wage or literally anything else. How the fuck are you going to do that? How are you going to get 10 Republicans even just to get out of debate? You're just not going to be able to do it. So what you're essentially saying is by giving up on the $15 minimum wage increase when you could clearly bypass the Senate Parliamentarian, include it in the bill, and then put the gas on the pedal and really put your foot down and check Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema and put them in line, come together and put the pressure on them. That's what you're supposed to do. But the thing is, when the executive is not really in favor of this, they're not really going to, and they're not fighting for it, none of that's going to happen. You have to have like a Bernie Sanders as president who's willing to put the foot down, bring all the Democrats together, and put the pressure on Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema to get them to vote for the $15 minimum wage. That's what FDR did. That's what LBJ did. That's what all of the great presidents did. In light of these sorts of barriers or hurdles that they had to go through, they bulldozed through it, and that's what made them the greatest presidents. Because despite the hurdles that they had for progress, raising minimum wage, passing Social Security, creating Medicare, Medicaid, Civil Rights Act, all of that stuff, they bulldozed through it. You think it was easy for LBJ to get the 1965 Civil Rights Act through, and then on top of that get it so that the Supreme Court doesn't determine it unconstitutional? You think that was easy? Fuck no. But that's what made LBJ, is that he got those things through. So basically what this means is we ain't going to get anything through. There's nothing progressive that's going to be done from here on out, because how are you going to get anything through the Senate if you're not going to use or can't use reconciliation for anything? You're not going to get anything through. And so you're just waving the white flag. And so Joe Biden has broken all of his serious promises, any of the progressive promises he had. Anything else that's going to be passed is just going to be, honestly, most of the time, the stuff that's going to get through is the bipartisan stuff, which is stuff like, tax cuts for the rich or, wars and stuff like that. So it's going to be garbage that gets through. So Biden has essentially already broken all of his progressive campaign promises, because if you don't get anything through this reconciliation, at that point, you're waving the white flag because you can't get 10 votes to break the filibuster. It's just not going to happen. AOC says if people in this country send us to government to change lives, we have a mandate to change those lives, and this problem is especially compounded in the Senate, which already has an extreme anti-democracy bias. That is true, by the way. The Senate is incredibly anti-democratic. I think Wyoming has like 350,000 people. California has 35 million, and they both have two senators. Absolutely vomit-inducing. Honestly, the Senate should indeed be abolished, or it should be reformed. I would say that, you could have the House of Representatives in the way it's constructed now, but the Senate should be more of a middle ground than it is a complete extreme. Let's have, just equality entirely despite population numbers. It's absolutely insane. It should be somewhere in the middle for the Senate, and the House of Representatives should stay as it is. But the other impacts that this is going to result in is you're going to see elections lost, because Democrats had a real chance here. What people really needed was an FDR. Instead, they're getting an '08 Obama, slow stimulus Obama, or you're getting like a Herbert Hoover. You're just getting garbage. You're not getting someone who's up for the task and what we need, which is real revolutionary change. And you're not even getting something like $15 minimum wage through, which is a big piece. It's a waste. And so you're going to see elections are going to be lost in the House and the Senate because the 2K check promise, all these things that Democrats promised, when you don't bring them, when you have a real shot, and you really could if you were really up for the challenge and really cared and gave a shit, people are not going to vote for you. You're going to lose elections. That's what happens. That's how Obama lost 1,000 seats. That's how it works, right? You make a promise, nothing happens, and it feels like it's this circle, right? The Republicans pick some, dog shit candidate, and then Democrats say, oh, well, you have to vote for us because, look at how bad that guy is. And then they make some bold promise. And so the liberals say, oh, well, this person's progressive, man. Look at this $15 minimum wage, increases in healthcare, and then all the promises they make, they break, and then the cycle just continues. It's just this, unbelievably frustrating cycle that you have to go through every 4 to 8 years, essentially. And then, Sam Cedar is saying, imploring people to vote for, whatever shitty Democrat is up. And it's just this dumb circle. When is this stupid, incredibly infuriating and frustrating circle going to be broken, where we don't have idiots like Biden or Obama as president who don't give a shit and they're not up for the challenge and they don't support any of this stuff? They don't support $15 minimum wage. If Biden really cared about $15 minimum wage, he would overrule the Senate Parliamentarian and then force Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema by applying pressure and forcing them to vote yes. But they don't care, they don't support it, and they're not up for the challenge. So that's what you get here.